a full face of controversial products that I want to put on with you today. So let's get into it. So we're going to start with some lip prep. And for that, I have the Dr. Dennis Gross Derm Infusions Plump and Repair Lip Treatment. So that's this thing right here. I should also note that I'm not wearing glasses. I'm not wearing any kind of lenses because I'm filming later in the day. And I didn't want to waste a daily pair of contacts on just like one video. So I'm really trying my best. But if something's blurred, if something goes awry, we're just going to let it go. I think my interpretation of a controversial product will vary from product to product, whether it's like through the beauty community or through like people that I watch or like my friends who also have that product, or just my personal feelings about it if I feel controversial about it. And we're going to talk about the products themselves, not the brands or the, people associated with the products, because I was trying to steer clear of that whenever I was making these decisions. This is a lip plumper and it's supposed to have like healing properties to it. And I think it's fine, but it absolutely just makes your lips super irritated. Also, this packaging is kind of like excessive. Why this? I know it's supposed to like kind of look like an injectable. What I do notice every time I wear it, that some of it like slips out of my lip line and goes like right here, and these areas become like incredibly red. I mean, I cover it up with makeup, but like, I don't know, it's a lip plumper. I have yet to meet it. Well, that's a lie. I've had my lip plumper pretty recently, since between my last video and this one, that I like quite a bit. But we'll talk about that. We'll save that for another time. All right, let's move on to some more exciting things. The next thing I want to talk about is the Thorn Oil from Ritual Defeat. It's called a priming facial elixir. And while I don't think this is a controversial product in the beauty community at large, I think that this product has like a lot of weird allure about it. And in my experience with it, is it's just an oil. Now, I think everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt when it comes to something like this. It might be a little bit counterintuitive. Well, I actually quite like this as a primer. It's not what I use the most of the time. It's not even because I don't like it or it's because it makes my skin look oily. Like, my skin does need a little bit of grip, and that's not what this is doing. Some people with dry skin really like it. But I think the thing that is the most prohibitive about it is that it's like $70 some. That's not to say that there aren't primers more expensive than that I have purchased and enjoyed, because there have been. But there's something about those primers that feel more worth it to me personally. And I did receive this in PR from the brand. It was very kind of them to send it to me. But also it's just kind of like, it's just like this thing. And I don't know why we have to agitate it to turn it more red. I don't know if that, like, what is settling to the bottom? Is that just for the red appearance, or is that some kind of ingredient? I actually don't know. They say you can use this as skincare too, and I would pay $70 for a skincare oil, but not a priming oil. I couldn't explain to you why. But I think there's a lot of people who like want to try this product to see if it's going to work for them. But I just think the cost is like a little too high. I do think they have, it took them a while, but I think there is like a sampler size of this. I'm not 100% sure. I might be speaking on my butt. I think it's actually, I feel like I just read it for film. I'm like, I like it as a product. I just don't use it much anymore. I've noticed recently, and maybe you have too if you've been watching my channel for a long time, I look less shiny on camera recently. And I don't want to say that I'm like matte, but I feel like I used to make a real effort to be like have glass skin, and I think I've landed somewhere more in the middle when it comes to like the finish of my skin, because I feel like I was doing a lot oily and slicky and slippery things on my face, and I still powdered. I mean, I powder a lot now, but I feel like I'm looking for more of like a skin finish. I do like to keep a gloss on the cheeks, so most of the time I just like don't powder there, and I do feel like I achieve that gloss. I think swinging too far in either direction is like in an extreme way, it's just like not my fantasy. Like, I want it to be glossy, I want it to be shiny where it's glossy and shiny, and then I don't want it to be glossy and shiny where I don't want it to be glossy and shiny, and I just don't think that's too much to ask. Let's move on to the next controversial product. Now, this one is more of a controversial product across the board, like in the beauty community at large, simply because of when it came up, when it kind of like launched. So this product is the Glossier Skin Tint. And when I was getting into makeup, I was very much in the 2016 era. Are you all on the side of TikTok? If you use TikTok, are you on the side of TikTok where people said they have brow blindness? That's incredible. I think you should look it up. Just go into the search bar and look for brow blindness, because that's a trip. I think we're all going to feel a little bit attacked by watching it, because I certainly did. So if you weren't around in 2016 or you don't know what I'm talking about, 2016, 2017, 2019, that like 2016 to 2019 era, we were doing essentially daytime drag makeup. like every day. A lot of us were. And Glossier was kind of the antithesis of that. And it came before the trend of the the glass skin that everyone tried to achieve from like 2020 until about last year. I feel like we're kind of in this era of trend where everything's just kind of a mishmash. Like you might do like almost no complexion, but a completely draggy eye, or you might do a ton of complexion and like really heavy makeup on the face and then like no eye makeup. Like we all just kind of do what we want. Like we certainly, some of us follow trends, some of us keep up on that. So that's our job for some of us. I feel like we're like a little in a more balanced place. I just remember, I think Glossier had been out, but I feel like it started making a rumble around like 2016, 2017 for me. It came into like my sphere. And all I remember is like all of the people who were really into heavy makeup who tried Glossier would be like, there's no pigment in it. And all the people who have like dry, mature skin or just like weren't looking to do drag makeup and just wanted makeup that was super easy for them to do to run out the door. I really think that Emily Weiss was really trying to like make makeup for like someone who lives in New York and is running around and like is touching up on the subway. Like I feel like that's very much the energy. This was like competing against full coverage matte foundations. And so it just was like people were very opinionated on it. And I think a lot of people have cooled it about their hatred against this product. I think something else that we've learned in the years since 2016 is that if a product doesn't work for you, or when you hear a product being described in such a way and you're like, that's not something I would like, you just don't buy it. You just don't buy it. You don't try it to make yourself mad. I mean, I think we do see some of that here in BeautyTube right now, or I think probably more so in TikTok, like there is that rage baiting situation. But I think people my age that are doing this kind of thing, we're not going out of our way to try to buy things that we know aren't going to work for us. But I still feel like people who like full coverage matte foundations would like run out and buy something like this. But I also think that we've now had an era where this kind of thing was more popular, low pigment, very dewy on the skin, just like a blurring effect. I think that this product is like probably less controversial now, but I just remember people really, really not liking it back in the day. I'm just gonna apply it with my hands. Again, it's the end of the day. Wow, my face is really red. I'm editing this video right now, obviously, and I actually think, and I think that the oil did that to my face, because at the beginning of the video, and you could do this right now, if you like click at the very beginning of the video, my face wasn't that red. And of course like your face gets red whenever you rub it, because it's like you're kind of like irritating your skin, but like not like that. And so maybe there's something in there that's not good for my face. It also is pretty old, so that also could be it. Yikes. Like my face, like it looks like I'm having, it doesn't look good, doesn't look right. And then I go to put on this. So how fun. So I think I'm gonna just get rid of that. My face is like going through it. I was outside all weekend for Pride events. I don't know if it's that, but I also wasn't really taking care of my skin because we were getting home late every night. And I was washing off my face, but I wasn't doing the routine TM. Like I wasn't doing the full routine. So I just started doing it again. So my skin might be a little bit mad at me for like exfoliating more, because like this looks not so great. That's a Glossier skin tint. I really love this product. I'm not always looking for like full coverage things. It's very up my alley most of the time. That's actually a gift from Cam. They gave it to me for my birthday last year. So the next controversial product is a personal controversial product, and it is the Surreal Skin Concealer from not Glossier, Surratt, the Surreal Skin Concealer from Surratt. And the reason I find this to be a controversial product is because it's so teeny. Here's a eyeshadow primer I have for scale. And the reason I just picked that up is because it's like, we would probably think that your eyeshadow primer would be smaller than your concealer. So this is a stick concealer with like not a ton of product in it. And this retails for like $50. The packaging isn't there. There's just like not a lot about it that I feel like would make it worth as a consumer to buy something like this for this amount of money. And I say that I actually really like this product. I really also like it with the Glossier skin tint, because it has a bit more coverage than the skin tint, but it's not like a ton of coverage. Man, my skin is really going through it. I like how I haven't done my makeup in front of the mirror for camera in like a week, and I'm like looking at my skin for the first time and I'm just like, what's going on? Like, why is this the way my skin looks? Oh, I think I also was talking about how I normally use a brush to apply the skin tint. The mixing palette I have is really dirty and I don't like working off the back of my hands. This concealer is really nice. It's super natural looking on the skin. It melds right into the skin and it's pretty elastic. It actually reminds me a lot of the Glossier concealer. If I'm being honest, like they're pretty similar, even though like this is a stick in the Glossier's in a pot. But if you like the Glossier concealer, I would just stick with the Glossier concealer. I think this one sticks around a little more on my face, meaning like it doesn't crease, it doesn't really like fade like the Glossier one does. Like I think this one just has a little bit better of a longevity than the Glossier one for on my skin type. I think I said, but just in case I didn't, I did get this in PR, the Surreal Skin Concealer, and like even in my review of Surratt, I was just like, I just don't see a world in which any of you would buy that and be completely happy with that purchase. And I do try to keep that in mind, right? It's really hard to keep in mind, like whenever you're reviewing PR, like there is an implicit bias that you did not pay for that thing. So even if you sort of like it and you think you would buy it for that price, it's like, would you though? I think it's still easy enough for me at this point in my makeup online career to keep that in mind, but like people with a lot more subscribers with me that make a lot more money on their videos probably have less of a concept or like less of a grasp on that. Like it's so easy for us to say on this side of things getting PR, like this is worth your money, but I don't think that's worth your money, but I also don't think it's bad. Like, I think both things can be true. The thing is, on the internet, nuance gets so lost. We're gonna do some cheek products. And so for the bronzer, I'm going to be using the Chanel Healthy Glow bronzer in Soleil Tan Deep Bronze. And the controversy around this was for a very long time, Chanel only made this product in one light color and it was everyone's favorite product. And then they reformulated it and all the people who used to love it didn't love it anymore. But after they reformulated it, they also added some shades. I think it comes in at least 3, but I think there might be 4 shades of this now, which is still abysmal because when you see the shades up next to each other, you're like, so this is the deepest one. And it's certainly not made for my skin tone. But what I like about this one rather than the original one is that the original one just looked orange. I know a lot of people really said it didn't look orange on the skin, but I disagree with them. And also you're allowed to like orange bronzer. And also orange bronzer is going to look better with different undertones than mine. But like a really orangey undertoned bronzer is just not going to do me any favors. What I will say about this product is you actually get a ton of product in it. And I feel like I've been working on this for more than 2 years at this point, and I just feel like I've still barely made a dent in it. It does have like the Chanel scent, which might not mean anything to some of you. I kind of like it with the bronzer. It dissipates pretty quickly. I feel differently when it's something that's going all over my face. It's like not even like I'm trying to avoid scented products altogether. That's not really what I'm after. I just feel like I don't need fragranced stuff all over my face. But I really like the undertone of this one. I like this product. Again, I feel like this is something that like specific people would really like. Who would like it though? Someone who wants one cream bronzer. That's really easy to work with, really easy to blend out. I never tried the original formula, so I can't speak to it. But like, I know a lot of people who tried them both didn't like this one. And I don't really remember the reasons why they didn't like the new formula. I like it well enough. Like I said, I've been working on it for 2 years. I have intentions of like really working on it this summer, but I've been working on it for 2 years and like that's the divot. Like I still haven't even like made it to pan. Like I'm making a concerted effort this summer to use it more of it because, you know, it is a cream product. Although I feel like there are people who are still working on their original formulas of this. So I think I'll be fine. The next product, I don't know if it's actually controversial, but it's a product I don't see a lot of people who even talk about this brand talk about a lot. And I think it is because of like the formula of it. And it's from Westman Atelier. And I think Westman Atelier is just like a brand that's always reaching, like reaching. The thing is, it's really fun makeup to interact with. Like most of it is really high performing. The packaging is super luxe. This is their super loaded tinted highlighter, and this is in the shade Peau de Rose. It's not the shade specifically, it's just this product. So there are people who really, really love this product, but I feel like all the other people who like Westman Atelier will normally avoid talking about this product or will offhandedly say like it's not for them. One, the compact is really hard to open, and I've said that before and I'll say it again. All of these compacts from Westman Atelier are just like really hard to open on. There's not a lot of grip to them. Like it's really hard to get them open, especially if you have like long nails or like dexterity issues. It's gonna be a problem. But they have a lot of pigment to them for them to be highlighters, but not all of them are shaded like this. Like this could easily be a blush topper. And I would say that most of the time, I think that the pink is not super discernible on the cheek, like you can't see it. But if I am working with a lot of tones that would work against the pink in it, like you can just absolutely see the pink in it. And there's sparkle in it, and it's not like they're highlighters in the stick form, because those did not have any glitter in them, but there's like glitter particles in it, or shimmer particles, or maybe mica. You know, I'm not really sure what the shimmer is, and they're incredibly inconsistent. For some reason, I like it in this product, but that is also something that bothers me about some other products too, where it's like you only get some sparkle sometimes, because a consistent sparkle can make it look like there's no sparkle, almost like where it's like, oh, it's just like a sheen. Like there's so much sparkle where it's just like when you turn your head, it doesn't look like sparkle, it just looks like glow. Sparkle in this is like fewer and farther between, so it's just like a twinkle on the cheek. And I could just see people with mature skin, which definitely feels like Westman Atelier's target market is, like people with maturing skin, or people with dry skin would probably get on with this stuff really well too. I feel like a lot of people who have like maturing skin don't want that sparkle, but I wouldn't even call it like razzle dazzle. I've definitely worked with more sparkly highlighters than this. It's just like, but why that level of sparkle? The other shades, I've swatched them all, and like Peau de Pêche is like a really deep bronze. like people with deep skin will be able to use it, which is confusing, because it's like, I feel like all the people who do like it say like they love Peau de Pêche, and I just like, I could never use that. I can never, which is totally fine. There's certainly allowed to be products that don't work for my skin tone. That's fine. But it's just like, I don't think that was their intention, because it like, there's no just like plain highlighter. It's like, there's this light pink one, which works well on my skin tone. There's always normally like a lighter neutral option, and they just like simply don't have that. But that's the super loaded tinted highlight. I guess they do say in the title it's tinted, but I still feel like a lot of us are confused. I don't think I have any like controversial powders, so I'm just gonna powder my face real quick and then we'll talk about blush. The next product I would say isn't super controversial, but it's something about the brand. I got on this one, but it happens every time they do like a seasonal release. It's from Chanel, and it is their, what is this one called? The Blush Harmony in Beige, Rosé, and Mauve. And this is what it looks like. And you're like, Tom, you love that product. And I do love this product. But if you recall, I had to fight to get it. Essentially, almost immediately after this was released, it sold out, and then it like didn't really restock after that. And then all of a sudden it popped up on like Gilt, like the luxury discount retailer. But then also my friends in Europe, like my subscribers in Europe, was like, they could still buy this for a really long time. But for some reason in America, this came and went like in the blink of an eye. In fact, I was like fighting for my life in the Bloomingdale's shopping cart to get this. And it was like, I got it, and then I loved it. And then people were like, I wish I could buy that. And I was like, I wish you could too, but I'm sorry, you can't, except unless you lived in Europe. And from watching Michelle Wong for, you know, as long as I have, I've learned that that's just the way the Chanel works whenever it comes to their limited edition releases. And I feel like we're sort of accustomed in the makeup industry to like limited edition and like how fast things go. But Chanel is not normally the market for that. But I also feel like we don't really have products like that anymore. And if they like do sell out super fast, I think that's a manufactured sellout, meaning like they just didn't make as many as they knew they could sell. I think back to like when Modern Renaissance came out, and it was like for months and months, it was hard to find it in stock anywhere, and people were reselling them for a lot of money because they were so hard to get your hands on. And I feel like that was like when people started buying their makeup on Alibaba, thinking that they were buying the real thing, like, you know, or just like buying like dupes that were like questionable about the quality. I feel like we don't have like that kind of culture, but probably Chanel's maybe doing the manufactured limited quantities to make it seem like it's really hard to get, which is something that a brand like Chanel would do. I really like this blush. We're gonna move on to eyeshadows, and I brought out 3, and actually I'm gonna talk about the one that actually inspired this video, because I'm gonna laugh about it now. I laugh about this every time I pull out this product because it's just so funny that And it's the Beautyverse palette from Charlotte Tilbury. So like, let's go through the levels of why I think this is a controversial palette. In my sphere that of the people that I watch on BeautyTube, so Lauren May Beauty, Teresa is Dead. Those are the two ones that I can think of off the top of my head. But I feel like a lot of people just really didn't love the quality of this palette. And like, I had the exact opposite experience. And the second reason that's funny is because I really claim to not like Charlotte Tilbury products. And yet, there are a lot of her products that I get on with quite well. But there's also just too much hype. There's too much hype, and also her brand's, it's like her stuff's expensive for no reason. But I will say this is the one time where like the packaging meets expectations. A lot of the time with Charlotte Tilbury packaging does not meet expectations. But I really just love this. I love the sparkles in it, and that was like the thing that I think most people had issue with, but I didn't find them that hard to work with. In fact, I recently rewatched my review on this because I've been talking about this palette so much lately. I stand by what I said. I love the mattes. I love all the sparkles. The silver still is the thing that doesn't work for me. And then the pink matte is just kind of a nothing. It just like doesn't show up. Overall, I much more positive things to say about it than I have negative things to say about it. There have been some of you showing up in my comment section recently being like, I bought that palette because of you and I also really love it. And thank you. Because I just felt like I was floating out on the sea. I was like, why am I the only one who likes this palette? Why am I the only one who likes it? But sometimes it just happens, right? Sometimes there's just a product that just doesn't work for anyone else, but it works for you. It's great because it's a limited edition eyeshadow palette that worked out for me. Because sometimes when everyone hates something and it gets discontinued really quickly, but it works for some people, that's a bummer. But like, I'm not worried about like running through this eyeshadow palette anytime soon. It's not like a powder or something like that, or a foundation, because when a foundation gets discontinued that you really like that everyone else hates, it's like, it's a bummer because it's like that, but that worked for me. Yeah, love the Beautyverse palette. Then the second one I pulled out that I feel like is controversial is the Ethereal Eyes palette, which is a really divisive palette, which it doesn't seem like it was a divisive palette, but if you remember round one, when it was first released, there were a lot of people who got their hands on this palette, and it was really hard to get your hands on this palette upon initial release. It just like the Chanel blushes, it like came and it was gone. And they did not really restock it. It was really hard to find there for a while. And then they did restock it last holiday season, and I don't know if they're still making it. Like, I don't know. I feel like I haven't really paid that much attention to it. But the thing about this palette that I feel is controversial is just like the formula in here of the mattes is different than his regular mattes, and just I felt like a lot of people didn't like the shimmers in this one either, and I really like the shimmers in this one. This is one of those palettes that really worked out for me. But I do feel like the script flipped whenever this palette came back out. And a lot of people who didn't like it on the initial run, like, revisited their palette and were like, actually, it's good. I've liked it the whole time. You can see, if you look at those hands, so we're making dents in this palette. I love this palette. I have also heard that in the more recent release, the formula wasn't exactly the same and people weren't liking it as much. I can't speak to that. All I can speak to is that I like this palette. I got it in the first go. I really like it. 10 out of 10 would buy it again. Like, and I would. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna need to anytime soon, but like, really love that palette. And then my last controversial palette we're not gonna go into the brand. Again, we're just talking about the palette specifically, is the Isamaya Industrial Pigments palette. If you're not familiar with this one, this is what it looks like on the inside. And this is one of those palettes that people either loved or they hated. I fall into the love category. And it's funny because I've been thinking about this palette a lot recently because I'm headed into like a big declutter at the end of June. Well, I'm going to be decluttering, filming it throughout this month, but you won't see it until the beginning of July. But I've been thinking a lot about this palette and I'm like, is it going to stay or is it going to go? But whenever I came up with this concept for this video, and I'm sure someone else has done a controversial makeup video, like I'm sure. I'm not, that's unoriginal. I didn't like look it up. So if don't claim it to be mine. I don't claim it as mine. I think distinctly the most controversial opinion on this came from Hannah Louise Posted, who despises this palette. And she just essentially like tore it to pieces in her review. And it was funny because a lot of people had recommended it to Hannah, myself included, but I also feel like a lot of her subscribers did because of the textures in it. I think back to that video sometimes. And I mean, Hannah had a lot to say about it. I think she made a lot of good points and like her experience with it was her experience with it. But something that happened not long after Hannah reviewed this palette is like she kind of became a one and done eyeshadow person, and she moved away from the dark textured grungy looks that she did and just was doing a lot of very like light shades on the eyes, just something to make it look really glossy, and like that's not what this is. It is interesting that like this was a pretty polarizing palette. Like there's a lot of things to be polarized about this palette, like the packaging itself. I feel like people don't really either love that or hate that, and then the formulas in here you're either gonna love or you're gonna hate. I thought I was gonna, you know, maybe try to pull some from each, which I might still do, but I feel like these two palettes are essentially the same, so I'm just gonna work out of the Beautyverse palette because it was what inspired this video. If I still had my Subculture palette, I would use that because, do you remember? But the thing about the Subculture palette is that the people who loved it really loved it. Like, loved that palette. That's one of those people. And like, there were more of us than you would think. I just feel like I feel like the internet made it out that like no one liked that palette, and like when we think about it in history, but I also think there is, when people talk about the Subculture palette now, I feel like there's some revisionist history happening where people who like didn't like the palette at the time are now trying to be like, well, no, I actually really did like that palette. It's like, I remember your review, Gina. If there's a person named Gina that did that, that's not who I'm referring to. God, it's hard being on camera and not being able to see. I'm really liking what I'm seeing on my cheeks in the monitor, but I also look incredibly blown out in the monitor. There's a lot happening here. I'm mostly probably gonna work out of this, and then I might throw on something from the Izumaya palette. And I honestly think we're gonna do some like one brush wondering here, and I'm just gonna use the mattes. I stand by that these are some of my favorite mattes that I've ever used, but they look a little warm in the pan, but I feel like when they go on my eye, they look incredibly warm. And that was like something that I was a little bit jarred by when I first tried this palette. I'm like much more accustomed to it now. So I am curious if they tried to make like a cool tone, if like Charlotte and her team tried to make a cool tone version of this formula, if it would be successful. But it's like they perform as a cream, but I think they're powders. I don't think they're creams, but like they just are. It's such a weird formula. It's also an incredible formula. I really like it. I would love to have more eyeshadows in it. I almost want to compare them to like the Victoria Beckham cream shadow sticks. That's like how they kind of work for me. Quick aside, Refer sent me more brushes. I think I mentioned that. They sent me like the mini versions, which is, when I say mini, I mean like the size of the brush, not the size of the handle. I don't know. It was the quality of the brushes, not the size of the brushes, that I was not impressed by, but we'll see. But the other day I was doing my makeup, and a Refer brush that I had meant to declutter and made its way back into one of my preferred brush mugs, like the, you know, the brushes that I use the most and that I kind of keep all together. It made its way in there. It was so funny because I thought I had picked up a Wayne Goss brush, and I was like blending out my eyeshadow. I was like, wow, why is this shadow not blending? And then I like actually looked at the brush I was using, and I was like, oh, it's a Refer. So I can tell the quality without even, you know, looking. I should have been able to tell by the handle, but I was not paying that much attention. Like I said, I was watching my review of this actually today. Not the whole thing, I was just kind of skipping through it, and God, my eyeshadow looked so good. So I was like, ugh, we gotta give it a spin. And also what was really nice about taking a break from like filming this weekend with hanging with Cam, who is, by the way, simply the loveliest in real life. It was so nice to hang out with them. It was just so easy. We did so many fun things. I'm not gonna like do a complete recap here. We had an incredible time. We had incredible food. And it's like, I know that we were in Pittsburgh, so it's like, I picked the food places, but like, I did a pretty good job, if I do say myself. Like, I think that I did a really great job. And I'm gonna celebrate myself, I'm gonna celebrate that. But you know what my favorite thing was? Getting ready with another person who loves makeup is so fun, because I mean, my vanity is always in disarray, but like all of our stuff, like what they had brought and my stuff, just kind of like melded into one on my vanity. And it was just like so fun. And we were just like passing things back and forth. It's just, I love that. Like, that's one of my favorite things. And it's just like, it reminds me a little bit like that makeup is like a kind of a communal thing. And like, there was one night, the night we went to see Chapel Roan, whenever I was getting ready for that, I like basically didn't talk to Cam, even though we were sitting here. I was doing like in a very intense, like graphic kind of look. And they said later in the evening, they were like, yeah, I realized about like 10 minutes and you probably weren't going to talk that much. And I didn't. That's why I don't record those looks, by the way, is because I know that that's like, I just get really quiet and I get really intense. So I was looking for a different brush to do what I just did with that brush, but I actually really like the way that brush did that. So then I was like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have done it. Should have done it with that brush. I'm sorry everyone, but that really did it for me. Like I really enjoyed that. You know what was nice about seeing Chapel Roan twice this year is the first time I was really just like taking in the experience of watching Chapel Roan perform. And then this most recent time I saw her, I got to just like dance and have fun, which is like a longer story to how we ended up having the space to dance, but that's a story maybe for my Patreon. And then I'm just taking a topper shade from the Maya palette. Gorgeous. All right, I don't have any like controversial like mascara or anything like that, so I think we'll jump to lips. I did put some of the chestnut lip pencil from MAC on the outside of my lips, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're gonna talk about the Merit Signature Lip. And I have the shade 1990, but it's not really about the shade. I feel like this was such a polarizing product, and I feel like everyone's experience with it is so vastly different. For me, it's like a very comfortable, very impactful, kind of like chapsticky lip that has a nice amount of pigment. Some people just don't think it's that great. I really love it. It like really aligns with like the kind of lip that I like to throw on all the time. But I also had one of the lighter shades, and this is something I've seen with some other people who have tried this product, that the lighter shades get really melty and like hit the side of the bullet. This shade never has like hit the side of the bullet. Like it doesn't have any marks from hitting the side of the bullet, but like I had the shade slip and it like looked like like the tip of an eraser that like a kid had chewed on all day in school. Like that's how it looked. But that was kind of the experience. It's like some people had really good luck with them, some people had really bad luck with them. I fell into, I guess, kind of in a category with both. Like both things were true for me. But honestly, I really love 1990, and it's still something that I think of very fondly. In fact, it's just like I feel like I don't wear it enough for how much I like it. But again, hopefully that will get resolved when I declutter things and I have, you know, I can focus more on things that I actually want to use. And this is certainly something that falls into that category. But all right, I have no idea what I look like. Let me go get a pair of glasses. This is a cute look. Cute little evening look. That just goes to show you that, you know, some products are made for some people and some products are not made for some people. If you're new here and you're like, why did all of those work for you even though they were controversial products? I don't really keep products that I don't like around. I try to pass them along and find them a home where they are going to be loved, even if they don't work for me. Because a lot of times it comes down to preferences and like skin type and things like that when it comes to makeup. So I always try to rehome what I can. If you're new here and you're not already subscribed, I would love to have you subscribe. My channel is mostly focused about loving the makeup that I already have, even if it is controversial, and being very like critical and cynical of brands and trying to keep in mind that like I don't need to buy makeup to be part of the beauty community. Playing with makeup is enough, guys. Make sure you like this video, share this video with someone you might think will like it, and that's gonna wrap it up for me because I'm really tired and I want to go to bed. Remember to follow your hoe. I don't want to go to bed, I want to watch TV. Remember to follow your hoe and you'll find me, and I'll see you in a video very soon. Go for it. Tits out.